Hello and welcome to the Elder Tree podcast. My name is Twiggy Dawn. I'm the founder of the Elder Tree and Alchemilla Herbals, and I reside on Jitterbug land here in far north Queensland. You are listening to the Herbal Education segment, where each new moon I invite a myriad of plant wisdom keepers to chat about the world of herbal education, about their passions and motivations, and their dreams for the future of herbal medicine education in Australia. This podcast is brought to you by the Elder Tree, a non-for-profit organisation whose mission is putting the medicine in the hands of the people. One of the ways that we are doing this is through this podcast. If you would like to go deeper with the podcast journey while supporting the Elder Tree for as little as $2 per week, then you can become a member of our Patreon. Thanks to all of the people and plants who have helped to make this podcast possible. In today's interview, I speak with Lily Aagren, a herbalist, permaculturalist, and ZenThai Shiatsu practitioner on Warrandjuri country in Warrandite, Victoria. Lily is a clinically trained herbalist with hands-on learning from herbal farms in Australia, such as Gould's Farm in Tasmania and Southern Light Herbs in Victoria, where she learnt herb growing and harvesting knowledge. I first met Lily a few years ago in a little teepee at a festival where she was running an inspirational herbal workshop. My next interaction with her was finding her podcast called Lily of the Herbs Talks, which is the first herbal medicine podcast in Australia. And right now you're listening to the second one. I highly recommend listening to her podcast, and I will put a link in the show notes. Lily is coming to the end of her recent 4-month course, The Way of the Herbalist, and she shares about the strong elemental wisdom within the course, having the experience of passing the baton and training her students to become teachers. She shares her journey of being in Thailand and Bali recently and learning from tropical herbal medicine teachers there, connecting with the herbal medicine wisdom which runs through the veins of those countries. I won't give too many teasers about this interview. It was a really wonderful and activating, explorative conversation, and I'm sure that you'll love it. Hi Lily, thank you so much for joining me here today on the Elder Tree podcast. How are you doing?
Hi Twiggy, I'm really good. It's beautiful to be on such a special podcast with you. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, it's really great to have you here. I was just reminiscing with you about when I first came across your podcast, which to date I think is the first herbal medicine podcast in Australia. And I was starting the Elder Tree podcast, and I contacted you and said, help, like, what's some tips? I don't know what I'm doing. And you gave me some really good technological pointers that really helped me with the journey of starting this podcast. So thanks for the inspiration from your podcast, and thanks for your help there. And it's really nice to get to finally have you on the show now.
Oh yeah, thanks Twiggy. And when Twiggy says I like helped you with some technological thing, I was kind of just like, yeah, do whatever. Sometimes I record it on my phone in the park. Yeah.
Well, as we would both know, this is kind of take 3, I think, or is it take 4? I don't know, on our interview. And so the last few times that we tried, you were in Thailand, and we had some tech difficulties. But you were on a pretty incredible mission over there. And do you feel like sharing with the listeners a bit about your journey in Thailand?
Yeah, I've just had a bit of a break, a couple of months break over in Thailand and then Bali, which was a much needed rest. And the intention really was to rest, but as many of you might relate to, like going over there, I felt I had this real desire to delve into the herbal medicine that runs through the veins of Thailand and connect with people and plants there. I think it's my way of, I guess, connecting with a country. And I was fortunate enough to meet with a beautiful herbalist and midwife who'd been practicing for 30 years, and to receive from her and learn about her practice. Thailand, they were all joined back in the day, and Thailand has some really interesting philosophies with its medicine that's kind of connected to Chinese medicine, these different They believe in all these different realms, like the spirit realm of the plant, the physical matter realm of the plant, and medicine, and all of these different journeys and spheres. And their theory of medicine is quite complex, and some of that is lost. But it's very sophisticated, and their practices of steaming and poulticing, compressing, really, really sophisticated. So it was cool to be my eyes to be open to that. It's a bit different to how we practice in the West, often with more tinctures and teas. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. They're probably working with a lot more fresh herbal medicine than the average herbalist in Australia. Is that right?
Yeah, definitely. And so much fragrant, warming, stimulating herbs, like the just, all the galangals and gingers and turmerics, that they have there, and the lemongrasses that just, and kaffir, lime, all of these herbs that, yeah, unless you're in the tropics, like, you're up north, Twiggy, so you have that. Me down
All of
south
them
and
were
in
in my
Calcutta.
garden.
Yeah, exactly. You've got all of that. For me, I'm like, "Geez, I can't grow this unless I get a
Mm.
greenhouse." But I just, even like one time I was in Bali hanging out this Herbal. I don't know if you know Nadi Herbal, and I was making some
Mm-hmm.
things with them there, and we were making a herbal oil, and she just had all this fresh lang lang and ylang ylang and frangipani, and she wanted to make an oil with it, and the pandan. The green pandan, and then we just chopped it all up and boiled it fresh in like coconut oil, and I would never like put them straight, like oil straight on the stove. We just boiled it up, and then it was the most incredible fragrant oil. It still smells incredible. It's just nice doing things like that.
Mm. Yeah, I went to Nadi's Herbal in Ubud in Bali. That's where you're talking about, right? Yeah, I went there and learned a bit
Yeah.
about making fresh medicine, like kind of beauty therapy, but you're getting all those herbs through the skin, so it's just kind of like an external way to get it all in through the pores. But yeah, I went there and loved how they just walked around the garden and were just freshly picking everything ready to make the medicine, and it was very, very inspirational.
Yeah, it just feels like so second nature for everyone over there. Like, yeah, yeah, just pick this, like, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
Everyone's doing it. Yeah, I had this moment where I wanted aloe vera for my partner, and I was staying in a homestay, and I was just asking if he had any aloe vera, and I was like, I did see some, can I pick it? And he was like, oh, no, no, I'll pick it for you. It's like a young 17-year-old boy. And he was like, yes, this is our family aloe vera plant. We like to harvest the leaf here, and like sliced it for me, and like, cutting it. I'm like, that's so cute. You know what aloe vera is and exactly how to slice it, and you're a 17-year-old guy. Like,
Mm.
yeah.
Yeah, beautiful. Yeah, it's amazing when the line's not lost, so much of us in the modern world are having to like kind of re-remember or pick up threads or learn through books or but it's wonderful to get to be in places where they haven't forgotten or had it taken away or lost or things like that. They've got that unbroken chain of herbal knowledge. It's pretty incredible to be around.
Yeah, it does feel special to be around people who have that running through their veins. Just the relaxed attitude, I also feel was a good thing for me. Like I practice in a clinic and have people coming for sessions, and there's often this like professionality that I need, and the room has to be just so, and this kind of separation between it. When was working with this midwife, I'm over there like receiving a 4-hour session from her in like on the floor in the room that's also their kitchen. She's like on the phone sometimes, and then like arguing with her daughter, and just like yeah, I just really liked how it's people sitting on the floor still and just preparing food. It just feels like we just had to make everything so grown up and boring.
Mm. Yeah, it's just real life. It's just part of life, family and healing, and everything's all just intertwined and it's not separated. Yeah, that's really beautiful. Yeah, thanks for sharing about that journey. There's always that ongoing learning that, you're going to Bali and going to Thailand and learning new tricks and learning new ways of doing things. But I'm curious to know a bit further going back, like what your journey has been like as a student. I believe you've been to Gould's and you've had a few different influences along your herbal journey of learning herbal medicine as a student. I'd love to hear a bit about that if you feel to share.
Yeah, well, Gould's was a bit of a pilgrimage for me. Gould's farm in Tasmania. I knew about them for a long time and felt this real, I was studying herbal medicine at the time, and I just, we hadn't seen a real plant, and I felt this real, um, I was like, I need to make this happen. Like, I need to apprentice with someone. And I wrote this really crafted email and asked if I could go and volunteer for a couple of days. And just the farm there is incredible. Like, it's really hard to find. You've got to drive up this really steep mountain hill. My car could barely get up it. And there's all these albino wallabies around, like,
Oh,
very
wow.
magical. Yeah, and Greg, the guy who started the farm, he's just such a legend. He started the farm, has been working there for like 30 years, wrote his book Herbal Harvest, and he was there, and it was all very kooky and inspired by Steiner, all of the ways the drying sheds and with the biodynamics, and the sickles to harvest, and the sheets, and we'd tie them in the squares and carry them on our backs. There was the reaping hook to harvest the wild oats and the peppermint. Like, everything's done with its perfect tool in its perfect place. And yeah, it was very magical to be able to be there. And I spent a couple of days and had a real affinity with Greg. And it was so nice. He was like, as I was about to leave, he was like, you know what, I'd like to offer you a job here, because I can see you have a real love for plants. And so I spent, yeah, longer. I just ended up living there for a bit and working with him. Just so lucky to have had days out there, and just, would be harvesting echinacea for 3 hours, and he'd say like, get me to try every different variety and be like, try the leaf here and try the tints here and try that. And then he'd take me into the tincture room and be like, and now try them all as one tincture, all 6 varieties made in 6 different ways, all together as one. And I'd be like pinging.
Wow.
Yeah, I had some very, very strong, I guess, plant experiences there, because I feel like the vibration is really high there on that land.
Mm. Yeah, the temperate climate herbs just thrive down there. There's something really special about that land. Yeah, I love that you talked about Greg. He's the one person on my bucket list, my bucket list in Australia, and I love his book Herbal Harvest. And I'm going to get to meet him early next year. I'm going down to Tasmania. I'm super excited about that. So yeah, yeah. So,
Oh, that's
what
so
else can you
exciting.
share with us about your journey of learning herbs, the good, the bad, the anything?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think for me it was always just a love of plants. My first job was at a native plant nursery in the area in Boonwurrung country in around Port Phillip Bay, Melbourne region. There's this little native plant nursery co-op, used to be called Skink, St Kilda Nursery, Indigenous Nursery Cooperative. And I started off again volunteering there. That was how a lot of my learning happened. I'd done a lot of woofing, like on organic farms, working on organic farms. And so I just wanted to be in service. And that was my learning. A lot of it was volunteering. And so I was volunteering at this native plant nursery for a while. And the guy who owned it, Dave, he was really, he wanted to really support me. So he gave me a job, kind of managing the volunteers and propagating plants a couple of days a week, which I was really young.
Mm.
I was like 20, and I'm managing these groups of 20 volunteers that would come in from the corporate banks to do their hours of community service, teaching them about how to propagate the seeds and prick out grasses and things like that. So that was a really, and felt like I was in the deep end. They had a native plant nursery, and people come in and be like, "What's this species? Like, I want this, na 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 na," using botanical names and getting all hoity-toity. But it was like a really fast learning curve, I think, for me around plant identification and botanical taxonomy and all of these different things in plant propagation. And it gave me a real kind of a sense of just a kind of comfort, I guess, around working with plants and understanding their life cycles and how to be with them. And I feel really, really grateful for that basis, because then when I was going and volunteering on farms and working on different farms, like I think I felt this kind of confidence, to get in there. And that's really the basis of my herbalism journey, because I think so often people come from it without that background. It's got to come from the earth. I think you've got to feel a sense of familiarity with the plant's life cycle and journey, and being in that from seed to fruit. And I think so many people, you can, wherever you jump in is fine, but it's really great to know, like, oh, wow, the flower of a plant is going to turn into the fruit or the seed, and this is when the
Mm.
seed's ready to be harvested. And that really helps and informs the journey. So getting hands on, like just volunteering, like if there's a nursery around or a farm around, just asking if they need some help weeding, and you will learn so much, or even someone who has an incredible garden, making friends with them and saying, like, do you mind if I spend some time? There was a beautiful herbalist in Dalesford, um, and she herbalist midwife, and I met her at a festival. Was really liked her work. This is many years ago, and then reached out to her, and so yeah, I was going to her place and weeding for her, and then she'd give me herbs and cuttings in exchange, and we'd talk about how she was using them in her practices. So I was frothing on stuff like that, and I feel so much love for the younger me that had a lot of energy. A lot of my energy these days goes into, I guess, my clients and supporting them, and I forget that I sometimes it's really good for me to just come back to that where I came from, which was really just working with the plants themselves, and that deep love and passion and curiosity for any form of knowledge, any book. Yeah.
Wow, that's really good advice as well that you're giving to our listeners and anyone out there. It's a great place to start with, like with herbalism and journeying with plants, is just offering your time to people that inspire you. And yeah, that's how I kind of started on my journey too. So yeah, that's a really good point.
Yeah, it's kind of the old way. I think if there's a course or someone who inspires you, definitely do that. If it's a degree or whatever, that's a great framework. But I really think that, you got to also just follow the curiosity. Like the journey of herbalism is a mystery in a way. There is a sense of following this path. What do you call it? The hero's journey, or whichever. Like there's this path of like being led, and I used to spend hours poring over, the Woof book. Each year they release a book of where you can go woofing. They do
Uh,
it in Australia. Yeah, the Willing Worker on Organic Farm. And I used to
yeah.
just trail, and each person has like a tiny paragraph. They're like, hi, my name's Sue, and I've got a 20-acre property with some hawthorn trees, and I need help, like, like, I don't know, accommodation like this. And I just trawl through that and just, see who I felt I resonated with and send them a message and see what came from it. Hmm.
Yeah, you have quite a connection with the hawthorn, don't you?
Yes, I do have a connection with Hawthorn. For the last year and a half, I was living in Warrandite on the Yarra, the Birrarung River, in Victoria. And on the street that I lived in, it was actually next to a cemetery. We had a beautiful little home clinic there, my partner and I, and all along the street was hawthorn. And it was a beautiful street with a lot of gum trees and hawthorn, and sort of semi-suburban, but with bushland around. And yeah, it was interesting. Like I'd take out my groups when I was running workshops just down in the street, and be harvesting hawthorn, this kind of borderland, that grows on the hedgerows, and it's this kind of border protective plant. It will grow kind of all along the cemetery, which is interesting. And I felt like that was kind of like guarding the spirits. And even people talk about hawthorn in the smell. I don't know if any of you listeners have smelt the blossom, but it's a really interesting smell. It's these beautiful white, delicate flowers, and you expect, to smell it and be like, oh, wow. But it's actually a very distinct, like people have described it as like semen smelling, or like death or decay, like it's a yeasty, fishy odor, that you don't really expect from such a delicate bloom. And I've heard that likened to, I guess, like its closeness to death. There's this, the decay. There's almost like life in the decay. I don't know. I'm rambling, but yeah, hawthorn is an interesting plant with its thorns and its berry. Yeah, it's a powerful teacher.
It's interesting how many heart medicine plants have thorns. I've like observed that, like particularly with the rose. Um, yeah, I can't remember any other examples right now, but I remember reflecting on that a while ago about the amount of heart medicine plants that have thorns on them, and just kind of pondering on that and what that could signify.
Yeah, no, you're right. It is, and I find hawthorn and rose go really well together, I guess.
Mm.
Yeah, I guess like yeah, it's what I was thinking of, the protection, we can have these vulnerable, so like in the flowers, they're so vulnerable and soft, and then they
Mm.
both have berries which are really high in antioxidants and provide a lot of nutrients and richness for us. But then there's this kind of like, yeah, but it's not all just like juicy and pretty, is
Uh-huh.
it? It's like there's a, yeah, it's can fight, it can defend itself. I like that.
Mm-hmm. Fierce and protective at the same time as loving and gentle and delicate. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, beautiful. So, can you share with us a bit about your journey to become an educator then? Like, what were some of your motivations, inspirations? What made you decide to become a teacher of herbal medicine?
Yeah, so I guess it wasn't really a thought out thing. It was never like, oh, I'm gonna teach herbalism. As I shared before, that job, my first job when I was 20, was around facilitating workshops, and they saw that I kind of had a knack for facilitating, and so he kind of created a new role where he was like, just come up with workshops. And put them out there, like any workshop, any facilitator you want to come on here, get them on here, and that's part of your job. So I started being workshop coordinator, and after a while I was kind of like, oh, I could just book myself, because I've got a lot to teach here too. And then yeah, I'm a bit of a traveling herbalist, and I think there was a lot of journeys on in between there, and it just kind of naturally occurred. I spent a lot of time working with some friends. They started a natural building cooperative. I don't know if anyone's heard of Agari. It was called Agari Farm.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you've heard of them?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so that was a group of my mates, and they were running these builds. So they were getting people were coming along to these builds, and where someone would say like, "Hi, I've got a property and I want a straw bale house. Can you guys build it?" So then people would pay to come and live there and build these people learn how to build a straw bale house while building someone a house. And I got really involved with this group, and I did a few builds with them, and then they built me a tiny house. And in that there was just this just it was such a creative time, I think, for me. Like, it was just living so connected to the earth, natural building. We'd be farming and growing things at the same time, and it just sharing our knowledge just with each other, doing skill shares. And so I think from that, at the same time, had been doing a lot of this volunteering work, and I think there's just started to become this natural desire to share what I'd learned. That open creativity, I think if you're around people who are encouraging you to share, and sort of saying like, get out there, like, we want to learn from you, cheering each other on, then you can really get into that mode of being. So I think I attribute a lot of my where I am today is just the people that inspired me. And I was so inspired by the people that were running the workshops, seeing them standing up there and being like, oh, you're only a few years older than me and you're running this. Like, oh my God, do this. And then
Mm-hmm.
I'd just be sort of, at the local farm or whatever, being like, I'm going to put on a workshop here. And it's just progressed from there. And, I think we talked a little bit, like, I just sort of run a medicine making day, and it's just grown from that. It's like, oh, why do one day? Let's do four. Why do, and there's so much more to teach. Oh my God, I can't even fit into 4 days. Let's do 4 months. Like, recognizing as well the like that I've got about over a decade of knowledge to share now. Yeah, it's got this yeah, there's a I think it just happened naturally, like it just unfolded. So I think there's a path of least resistance there. I think, so many of us are teachers. Some of us maybe aren't, and this is where I'm sort of working. I've been finishing this container of a 4-month herbalism journey with 16 women actually, and now I'm sort of mentoring them around the process of like, where do you want to take this? Like, we've just opened up 1,000 doors. We've made so many different kinds of medicines. We've understand constitution, dosing, kind of like working out, not diagnosing, but understanding patterns within the body. Where do you take this? And some of them are feeling like, oh, I'm feeling a real affinity for essences, I'm going to run with that and start a product line. And then other people are like, oh, I already have a coaching and massage business, I'm just going to incorporate herbal oils and maybe recommend teas to people. And so me just kind of like encouraging in that. And then other people are like, oh, I already facilitate circles and trainings, I'd like to bring in like a medicine into that. And I think it's about listening to where your unique skills are as well, and playing off that as a way of offering, because once you start practicing herbalism, you want to share it. So it's sort of about finding what comes naturally. Yeah.
Beautiful. Yeah, I always say that with knowledge comes responsibility, and I think that once we know a certain amount about something, then we have like a duty to share that, especially if that knowledge is something that could enrich other people's lives and have a really positive, ripple effect. And yeah, it's really valuable. So yeah, thanks for offering your skills and your experience and wisdom to the world. And yeah, it's been cheering you on from afar. That 4-month herbalism course, the Way of the Herbalist, that's what it's called, right? The Way of the Herbalist. Yeah, they looked absolutely incredible. There's no online offerings that I've seen like that in Australia, so or at all. So yeah, that's beautiful. Can you tell us a bit about that journey this past 4 months and what that course is?
Yeah, so it's interesting because I get a lot of people contacting me and, they go, I'm wondering if I should do the degree, because right now in Australia you can do the degree, I think, at two places, correct me if I'm wrong, but it's Endeavour College or Torrens University.
The degree in
There might
naturopathy
be
or herbal medicine?
herbalism.
Just Torrens now.
Oh, really? Wow.
The
Okay,
degree,
just
yeah.
Torrens. Okay.
Hmm.
Okay, so there's one degree of herbalism in Australia, and we've both done that degree, yeah?
Hmm.
Yeah, we both did it. We both slogged through it. And I think it just, depending on where you're wanting to go with the degree, it's a bit, there's actually no mandatory law that says that to practice as a herbalist or a naturopath in Australia that you need a degree. It's not government regulated. So there's a body called APRA, Australian Practitioner Association something, and they kind of govern chiropractors and acupuncturists and nutritionists and physiotherapists, and there's a few other things. And so you actually need a degree to practice as one of those things, and there's some steps that you need to go through to become registered. Whereas a herbalist and a naturopath, there's a bit of kind of controversy around it. Some naturopaths and herbalists are like, well, we did that bloody 4 or 5 year degree. Like, you can't call yourself a bloody herbalist because you didn't do it. So they want to be governed by it. And then there's other herbalists and naturopaths who are saying like, well, actually the degree isn't really well rounded enough and we want to learn in other ways and still practice. So, and I'm kind of on that train of thought. I think there is a long mentorship and journey that needs to go down to really properly assist people with certain health conditions that, and that, if you're not ready for that, they need to be referred on. But I do think that the practice of herbalism and creating medicine and sharing grassroots herbalism is something that, if that's where your passion lies, and your passion lies with the plants, and not so much in that clinical one-to-one environment, then I don't know if the degree is necessarily for everyone, because it can be soul crushing. And it's a lot of assignment running. It's hours and hours and hours trying to get the right referencing and whatever. We both did that.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Totally relate to
So
everything you're saying.
yeah, it's difficult, and like there's magic in it, there's beauty in it. It's something, it's medicine there too for us. But it's about weighing up whether that's a thing. And it was like a $60,000 HEC step for me, which is something that I'm still paying off, or starting to pay off. And I think that's a real consideration. And this. Whereas, so I wanted to just kind of put together a course that was all that I'd learned over my lifetime of learning, and all the aspects that I felt that were missing, the energetics, the discussion around individual constitution. From the degree, it's kind of rote learning, like here's 12 herbs, memorize them, this is their action. So a nervine, oh, you've got stress, I'll give you this nervine. Whereas my approach was coming from more of an elemental lens, which is what is used more traditionally in medicine, this like traditional Western herbal medicine, even Ayurveda or Chinese medicine, is this perception of the elements that we're all made up of, and I'm using the terms of air, fire, earth, and water, and that when we start to see those lenses within us, some people have maybe more of an excess of fire happening, and there's heat manifesting in the body, rashes or something, it's very broad right now. But then we can learn to work with corresponding herbs that might be soothing or more watery in their nature, and start to tune and use that elemental lens to really be nuancing and understanding, I guess, the personality of plants and people, because we're all a combination of all of the elements, and we change depending on the seasons, time of day, life cycle, where we live, and then so these plants can be balancing for us. What St. John's wort might be helpful for me when I'm suffering from a bout of depression, but it might not be helpful for you at that time. So it's kind of like, yeah, understanding and going deeper into the web and the wave of herbalism, and just really practical medicine making. I think that was my other desire, was that that these my students would make a different medicine for 16 weeks, and so we made a different medicine and would share and learn and talk about it throughout the week, and yeah, just keep the practice alive and embodied.
Beautiful. Well, and you're rolling that course out again next year? Are you doing it again? Is that a
Yes, I'm doing it again. It'll be late Jan, that we're beginning, and yeah, and then I'm wanting to actually start this kind of mentoring program, which I might be pushing back a little bit further into the year. And I guess it's just been me doing all of this. I get other guest facilitators. I actually got Jackie Bushell, who you interviewed, and
Mm.
I actually listened to her on a podcast with you, your podcast with her, which was great, by the way. And remembered that I'd been to one of her talks years ago at a wise women's gathering, and I was like, oh, I forgot about Jackie. She's been this amazing herbalist in Australia for like 30 more 40 years or whatever. And so I reached out to her and I was like, Jackie, I want you on there talking about flower essences to my students. And I got so many different people to come in and talk and inspire. Anyway, so it is just me, but it's me just running my business like you. I mean, it's a big thing running a business by yourself, isn't it? It's not just out
Yeah.
frolicking in the garden a lot of the time. Um,
It's going square-eyed and, having to deal with all kinds of, things that aren't even plant related.
exactly. Yeah, just like replying to payment plans or whatever, or doing your tax. I don't know, whatever we do. We're just seeing so many messages, which is, I love that side of things. I actually love business as well. I found a bit of a passion. I think I like being an entrepreneur. I froth on that a little bit too. But anyway, I'm always having ideas for expansion, and I just felt like, oh my God, I really want, because I've designed these medicine making days that I've been running in Victoria, and they were like an elemental medicine making day where you make 4 medicines. Each person makes 4 medicines throughout the day for each one of each elements. Like we make incense for fire, and we make, for air, and we make tinctures for fire and balms for earth, and I really was enjoying running them, and I'm like, I want to facilitate my students to then take on and run these elemental medicine making workshops for me, and then come on and teach on my trainings and my 4-day trainings, and then run my 4-day trainings for me, and then be a part of the lily of the herbs that needs a name to encompass all of it. So there's this idea of kind of like passing on the baton in a way, yeah, and mentoring people into that space if they feel called. So that's where
Mm.
the journey's going next. And I love you. You're doing that on the Elder Tree, aren't you? You've got this kind of. Are you planning on buying land or starting a farm, or what's
Yeah.
happening?
Yeah, yeah. So we're gonna have land to have a sanctuary on, where we'll have a well, basically a little bit similar to Gould's. We'll be offering internships for graduated university, well, during their studies or post studies for naturopath and herbalism students. So there'll be that kind of, growing and harvesting, making the medicine, but then applying that to, to the practice, coming into being a practitioner. So yeah, there'll be the clinic. it's kind of like the whole idea of it is education and healing is interconnected, and that people will come for education and be healed through that process, and people will come for healing and be educated in that process of how to, how to take care of themselves. So it's a really big thing. But once we're up and running, which is, yeah, not sure when that will happen. There's been like a million little steps and pieces of the puzzle that need to kind of fall into place before that point. But once we're all up and running, I'd love to have you come up and bring your wisdom and magic up here, and and also get to enjoy the galangal and the kaffir and the lemongrass,
Yeah,
the ginger and the turmeric.
yeah. Oh, I love what you're creating. I think that that is what Australia is craving for, calling out for. We're just like waiting for it to happen. So yeah, definitely really excited to support you guys on that journey. And I think it's
Mm,
amazing. Love to come and visit. And we can do some steaming, the steaming
yes,
with all of it. Yeah, that'd be
yeah,
great.
really beautiful. Yeah, and I really love what you were saying before around, in Australia, kind of this idea of what a herbalist is, legally and also just in the public. And I really feel like there's this um, new language that needs to come around the titles of herbalism. It's something that I talk about a lot in my presentations and workshops and things about, you know, um, teaching people and saying you're a herbalist. It's okay to take that on and call yourself a home herbalist or a folk herbalist or a, whatever, a grassroots herbalist, a community herbalist, like whatever. There can be so many, you're a herbalist, herb grower and medicine maker or whatever, like being able to kind of claim that identity, and also then think that there needs to be a new language, which is not even new. It's quite common in the States, in America and in Europe, but having like clinical herbalists and medical herbalists, and having more, I suppose, titles for the people that have completed degrees or even diplomas or have done more structured, more clinical based, education, and can offer a much more, scientific background and depth of understanding around anatomy, physiology, and chemistry, and the whole, to really like honor that and give that its own title, and but to just open up the full spectrum of, all the different shades of herbalism. I just think that it's, Australia's been so stifled for so long with this really restrictive singular word of like you're a herbalist or you're a naturopath, which is kind of a herbalist and a nutritionist, and I don't know, there's just this really stuffy boxes that are just really are not enough to, you know, for all the shades. So yeah, I love that you brought
I
that
love
up.
that.
That's something that I'm quite
No,
passionate about.
you've
So
voiced something that I've been feeling. I really feel that. I think that that's so right. We definitely need more, yeah, more nuance around the terminology, and just, yeah, celebration of different people's areas that they feel really called to as well. Like, yeah, I think the degree does give you a bit of an understanding about reading test results and working in tandem with GPs and that kind of
mm,
thing. And I think that yeah, an understanding, a really in-depth understanding of interactions and contraindications, and that does need to be recognized. If and that sort of and that will resonate for certain people, and for other people that won't be the healing that they need.
mhm,
Their path is on a different level. And I think that when you're, yeah, when you can, as a practitioner, I think a lot of people are sort of saying, well, how can I, how do I attract the clients that I need, if you are out there. And I think this is a big thing, like even for people who've done the degree, it's like so many people do the degree and then they're like, oh well, where are the clients? Like that's not, the support isn't really there for, I think, people
mm,
graduating. It's kind of like all this time running all these assignments, doing all this work, and then the real work begins when you actually get out there.
yeah,
And so just, I guess, support, like building awareness. We need to build awareness of like, what is herbalism? How can it support people so that people are seeking out a herbalist, um, and that people are being drawn to those practitioners that might be resonant for them as well in their particular path or journey.
mm,
Yeah, yeah,
yeah, beautiful. Yeah. Well, it's coming, it's changing. It's a conversation that's happening with lots of people right now. So we're kind of in the midst of a shift in the, you know, the world of herbalism in Australia. I feel like there's a really massive change that's afoot. Yeah, yeah, it's great to know there's other people like you in other places in Australia that are feeling and thinking along the same lines. And yeah, I'm excited for what's ahead.
Yeah, maybe it will be
Yeah.
a degree. I'd love to see a new degree, not just Torrens, because I feel like Torrens has lost a lot of what it was. You know, it was Southern School of Natural Therapies that got bought by Torrens University, and it's changed the curriculum, and I think a lot has been lost within that.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, it's interesting. Yeah, that whole journey with the um, yeah, with that, it's all kind of come down to there were all these schools. You know, originally I was enrolled in a school in southern WA, and then they shut down. It's like, okay, and then I enrolled in another uni in southern WA, and 3 years into my degree, they shut down overnight. And so then I was like, okay, so I enrolled in SSNT. Meanwhile, I got put back to being a first year student. Anyway, I'm not going to give the full ins and outs of this terrible journey, but enrolled in SSNT, and then watching all of the universities amalgamating, like Torrens buying them all out and coming under this one thing. And it was, yeah, it's been really interesting to observe that whole thing of what's going on. Because, yeah, and then watching all of the lecturers that have just been dropping out, a lot of them more plant oriented, grassroots kind of lecturers just being like, oh, I don't know, this is all taking a really different direction to what, you know, to what I want to be a part of. So, but it's all kind of really just gearing to this really clinical, scientific realm, which is beautiful. Like, I think that there's a place for that as long as there's all these other education spaces. And so, you know, what's been missing in Australia has been other courses. So, you know, you might have your village herbalist or your local regional herbalist. There's so many of them, like, you know, all the people I've been interviewed on this podcast, including yourself, that within their communities they're offering amazing things and keeping the flame alive, and offering all these other perspectives and ways with herbalism. But what's been missing until very recently is actual some structured online education spaces. So, you know, what's emerging is like Heidi Marika and you and Stephanie Hazel, and soon myself. I'm going to start my first online course next year. You know, and then having the online and face to face, like what you're doing with the, you know, art of herbalism, that blended kind of experience there is just making it more accessible, having a structured journey over time so people can have a deeper journey than just one workshop or just one weekend intensive or whatever. People can actually have like a guided journey deepening into herbal medicine with that opportunity to have the face-to-face element as well, if that's available. But
Mm.
yeah, so I feel like this is, yeah, what's going to start coming now is more and more of that, like deeper, longer courses becoming available for people. So yeah, and then that'll be fine that the universities are like so focused on that one pathway, because we'll have all these other pathways to complement that. And yeah.
Maybe they'll come knocking on our door and be like, "We don't get any enrollments. What's going on, you guys?"
Yeah.
No,
Well, I
I don't
really
know.
hope with
Maybe.
the elder tree to be working with Torrens,
Mm.
and, you know, and with Nature Care
Mm.
College and Switch On Health, and
Mm.
the colleges that are offering, you know, because there is still the advanced diploma, you know,
Yeah.
at a couple of those other colleges. So I really hope to work with those colleges and not, you know, and kind of work together so that their students, we can work within there and kind of infiltrate, for want of a better word, you know, bring back in that grassroots embodied, tactile, sensory, connected element of herbalism into that space, and have, you know, encourage universities to have field days, or have, you know, like parts within the curriculum where they actually take the students to visit people like you that are closer to a city, or, you know, to visit you know, herbalists that are teaching that, like on the land with the seed, flower, fruit, like the leaf, the whole,
Mm.
you know, actual experience of herbalism. So yeah, that's my kind of idea as well with the elder tree, that we can kind of bring it back in, you know, let them have that really clinical singular pathway, but then still bring in this this connected elemental level of herbalism back in.
Yeah, it's a beautiful vision, and I'm excited for it to come to fruition. I think it's just waiting for it. I mean, it did used to happen a bit. I worked for Southern Light Herbs for a little bit of time, and they were saying like, yeah,
Right.
Southern School used to come out and do field days here, and yeah, that then they kind of that dropped off because they had to move their farm out. But we need more farmers, so it's such tough work. I think farming herbs. So if you're getting students to do a lot of that work, do the work, the joy, the beautiful work, that can make it more sustainable, because a lot of people we have a shortage of herb growers in Australia because organic farmers aren't really paid what they're worth, and people can buy cheaper herbs from overseas. So I think that that would be a really beautiful thing to make herbs more accessible.
Yep, definitely. Yeah, well, a big part of this, this podcast as well for me is like, finding people like you that really inspire me, and then, presenting you to, letting people that might not otherwise have known about you or have exposure to you, getting to hear you, but then also together, like painting the picture of the future that we want to create together, because then when all the thousands of people listen to this episode, they're like, wow, yeah, they can kind of create it with us. So yeah, it's a really potent opportunity for like manifestation, with everyone listening. So with that in mind, could you paint a bit of a picture with me of like the world you want to see? I mean, we've said bits of it. We've been kind of feel like we've been talking about it the whole time, but what else would you like to see become available in these coming years for herbal education opportunities and just herbalism in Australia in general?
Yeah, well, I think that's a beautiful question, and I definitely see your Hogwarts for herbalism coming up, and maybe a few others out in the forest here and there. Like, I'd like to have one pop up somewhere at some point. I mean, it kind of follows me wherever I go, but I do dream for land accessibility, and I think that that's a big conversation I often have with people, is also around like this desire to live in community and to be to be connected. And so often, with my clients, what I'm seeing and hearing, it's like, oh, well, you're stressed, because we're living in isolation and in separation. And I think that we can feel connected by plants, but I do dream for a world where people are able to live communally on land, and grow a lot of their own herbs and have that more accessible. So I'm just sort of dreaming up models with not it's not anytime soon, but yeah, more community based land living, and seeing herbs as a more daily integrated practice, which I think that there's a big movement happening, and it's just growing stronger every year. But then seeing herbs pop up in boxes in the city, and then having fresh herbs available even in supermarkets, like really good quality herbs, and having people turning to that more, I think, as a way of trusting that, like instead of popping a Panadol, being like, okay, I've got my fireside here. I think my greatest desire would be that people feel, people feel more health sovereignty and power, and ability to feel like they've got a way of interacting with their health that feels more empowered and informed. And I think that's a byproduct of herbalism as well. Yeah.
Definitely. Great. Yeah. A picture of empowerment and sovereignty. That's really beautiful. Thank you for sharing.
Yeah, and thanks for having me on, Twiggy. It's beautiful of you to share my work here and connect us all together, and weave this web of connectedness, because that's, I guess, I'm talking about, connection on land, but connections happen everywhere. And, just hearing someone's voice can be the spark, and a spark of inspiration, and just planting a tiny seed, and you never know where it's going to sprout up, who's going to hear you, what's going to happen, and how it might just be that little seed for someone to be like, wow, that's it, I'm going on a holiday, I'm going on a traveling quest to this farm, or like, I don't know.
Beautiful. Yeah. I love what you're saying about herbs in the supermarkets. I actually had this experience a couple months ago. I was in southern WA, and I was there was this little kind of Asian grocer out the front of a Woolworths in a supermarket complex, and I there was this fridge, and I looked in there, and there was all these herbs, and there was this one bundle that I picked up, and I was like, "What? Lemon balm? No, smelled like lemon balm, but not." I pinched it, like lemon balm, but not. And like when you pinch it, it's like red, bruises red. Like there was just so much about it, but it wasn't. And I asked them what it was. It was a Vietnamese herb, Kin Gao. Anyway, I went on this big mission to like find the one person in Australia that could actually sell the plant, and got this plant, and now it's in my garden, and now it's my new ally. And yeah, and it was like thanks to that supermarket complex and the Woolworths, this little grocer out the front of Woolworths that like brought this plant into my life that I've now found the cousin of lemon balm that can grow in the tropics. And yeah, it's my new ally that I'm exploring with. So you just reminded me of that. And yeah. So
Oh,
yeah,
well, it's
that's a
happening. It's
really,
happening.
yeah,
That's
yeah.
great.
So do you have a particular ally with you at the moment with herbal medicine, or something that in particular you're working with closely at the moment, or plant in your garden that's calling to you?
Yeah, it's interesting. Definitely. It's funny. Rhubarb is kind of calling to me. There's a forgotten food forest on the property I've just moved into, and I've just been going in there every day. I haven't. That's one garden I haven't got to yet, but I've been going into the food forest garden and just benefiting really. And I had all this rhubarb there, and I was making a crumble, and then I actually ended up drinking the rhubarb tea because it's the water from the boiled rhubarb, because it's such a vibrant red, so full of antioxidants and sour and tonifying and great digestive. And I just went on this little love of rhubarb, and actually some women were over harvesting for one of my courses, and they're like, "Can we take the rhubarb leaves home?" They're like, "We eat them, it's part of our tradition." I'm like, "They're traditionally known as
Oh,
poisonous," and they're like, "No, no, no, we do it." um so I have to ask them more about that. Don't go and try it now, but so rhubarb's
disclaimer to
been.
the listeners: don't go consuming rhubarb just yet.
Yeah, they do, they do. So I've got to ask them how they do
Yeah,
it. So I'm really
yeah, they might
intrigued
have a
about that.
preparation. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, but don't go do it just because I said this. But yeah, that's been something that's calling to me. And the sours really, I mean, I'm Vata, and air dominated, and sour can be pacifying for me, the taste. And so
Mm,
berries, and then gotu kola actually is herb. There's a big wild patch in the garden, and I've been eating that and just feeling the antioxidant kind of like juiciness of it. Like I feel like it's good for, just boosting collagen in the skin and skin regeneration,
mm,
and just kind of having this bit of a summer cleanse as well with that. I think that's a really beautiful herb that's been calling
mm,
to me. And yeah, just kind of invigoration is what I'm really feeling at the moment, and antioxidants and berries and sour things. Yeah, cooling, because I've had a bit of heat in the body. So
yeah,
yeah, that's kind of what's calling me at the moment.
beautiful. Yeah, I haven't really journeyed with rhubarb. I've kind of had yeah, whenever I've tried growing it, it hasn't been happy with me. So I often don't start journeying with a plant until I can grow it or wild harvest it in a way that where the plant's like happy and saying, all right, I'm ready to work with you. If I've got a cola, yes, most definitely everywhere. In fact, I'm doing a whole month, kind of part of my upcoming course is a whole month on Got a Cola. So but yeah, it's definitely tastes and acts very differently down in temperate climate, I've noticed. So I'd be curious to know what the like different phytochemical profile and benefits are of it growing in different climates. It'd be interesting to see some studies done on that.
Yeah, it
Mm.
definitely down south it feels a bit like more of a zing almost, because I think the soils, it's often growing on hard clay and not getting a lot of
Mm.
water, and there's this a species that's endemic to Victoria actually, that I've seen growing out in the bush a bit, and it definitely has this yeah, very strong. It's definitely a lot stronger than the one in Northern Rivers that I was harvesting. Yeah, kind of
Mm.
like even a thicker leaf.
Yeah,
Mm.
interesting. Love to see photos. So, Could you share with the listeners a bit about like what's going on? Like you've just coming to the end of your Art of Herbalism course. So what can we what's where are things at now? Like what offerings do you have or what's coming up? You could
Yeah,
also
so
talk
my
about your not just herbalism, just all of your offerings, your shiatsu, and and anything else you feel to share.
thanks. Yeah, so my the Way of the Herbalist 4 month training is ending now, but I've got another one starting at the start of January next year online, and then there's a 4 day training in March that is open for people doing the 4 month training or just if they want to come along. That'll be at my area, kind of Warrandite way. And I also practice ZenThai Shiatsu. So my partner and I are running a level 1 training in Brunswick, Victoria in February for the level 1 ZenThai training. And that's a beautiful bodywork practice that I feel very fluid. It's Thai massage and shiatsu, osteopathic technique, and just a beautiful fluid dance that is just so nourishing and so yummy, a big part of my journey. Um, yeah, honestly, there's so many ways to work with me all the time, really. So just jump on my website, which is lilyoftheherbs.com, and on my Instagram, send me a message, and I'm sure if it resonates with you that I'll see you soon.
Yeah, beautiful.
Mm.
And I'll include links to all of that and information about that in the show notes, and also in the show notes put a link to your website and Facebook and all of that as well for any of the listeners that just look at the show notes. You'll find that all there. Yeah, so thank you for sharing that. It's very exciting times ahead, and I'm very curious about the ZenThai Shiatsu. I've had only uh, um, Sana. I just forgot her name for a moment, but yeah, our mutual friend Sana. Actually, I had a session with her, a couple of years ago when I was living with her down in Yarra Valley, and yeah, that's my only experience with it. But it was yeah, it's a really beautiful modality. So yeah, if I was down there in February, I'd love to come and learn that with you and your
Yeah,
partner.
well, if I'm ever up, I'm excited to visit your garden, and good luck with your move.
Thank you. Is there anything you'd like to say to our listeners that maybe we haven't covered or that you're feeling to share at all?
No, I feel content and grateful to have this conversation, and yeah, just open to the trusting in the mystery of where it will lead and what it will spread.
Hmm. Beautiful. Well, thank you for coming on here today. I'm glad that we finally made it work after take 3 or take 4, or whatever this is. Yeah, I look forward to working with you in person sometime.
Thanks, Twiggy.
Bye. Thank you so much for listening to the Herbal Education segment of the Elder Tree podcast. Stay tuned every new moon as I interview more wise and inspiring herbal educators and herbal lore keepers from around Australia. If you would like to go deeper with the podcast journey, you can become a member of the Elder Tree Trove on Patreon. Contribute as little as $2 per week to access free content from our interviewees, and also access discount codes and opportunities which are exclusive to our members. You can find us on Patreon by going to www.patreon.com/theeldertree. Other ways that you can assist us in getting our offerings out there to more people in Australia is by subscribing and leaving a review on Apple Podcasts and on the Spotify app. Also, liking, commenting on and sharing our social media posts actually has a really positive impact and helps us to reach further with the message from all of the amazing herbal lore keepers that we interview on this podcast. Thank you so much for your support and have a most wonderful day.